My name is Timothy Dunbar, and this is my Milestone 3 submission for the fall semester of CS6795, Introduction to Cognitive Science. My project is a literature review of the topic of artificial intelligence, specifically knowledge representations. Initially, I wanted to explore the ways in which knowledge representations affect performance, specifically the relationship between the represented world and the representing world, with the idea that the closer to the relationship between those two objects is to an isomorphism, the more performant the agent would be at tasks in the represented world. This idea was inspired by Jean Baudrillard's book, Simulacra and Simulation. Unfortunately, this turned out to be a bit of a broad topic, and ultimately I felt like I couldn't do it justice anyway. Instead, I decided to narrow my focus to simply understanding how knowledge representations are used or not used in robotics and in the varying levels of explicitness therein. I feel that this research topic is important because ultimately understanding how intelligent agents acquire and use knowledge to act in the real world is how we understand how the human brain works. These are the 12 papers that I am including in my final paper, even though I must have read twice that many or more. This is how I categorize these papers. I endeavored to read and understand each and every one of them. I took detailed notes with the goal of finding connections between each of the papers. I've got 3 papers on knowledge representations, 4 papers on behavior-based robotics, and 6 papers on embodied cognition. At the end of my Milestone 2 assignment, I had to predict what I would learn. I predicted that I would find that knowledge representations of one form or another are ubiquitous in cognition. I do believe that is true. From softbots to service robots, disembodied to embodied, knowledge representations are everywhere and in all kinds of forms, from knowledge graphs and partially observable Markov decision processes to neural networks and so on. I also ran across another very interesting thing. It seems that LLMs can exhibit signs of embodied cognition despite having no body of any kind. They can do this just by learning our language. I like to think that this means our language contains elements of our own embodiment somehow. I believe Brooks robots use knowledge representations. I also believe that there is something interesting in the fact that our embodiment presents itself in our language. In conclusion, I found that knowledge representations are ubiquitous, even in Brooks's own robots. I also found that our own embodiment is in our language. This latter idea fascinates me. I should say that our own embodiment might be in our language, I suppose. Finally, I would very much like to investigate the idea of human embodiment being embedded in our language. I already know that the specific concept matters by the zoo paper. I'm wondering what concepts exactly. Also, does the specific language matter? Like, is Chinese, for whatever reason, more embodied? Is embodiment more embedded in Chinese for certain concepts than it is in English or Dutch or French or who knows, whatever, right? And then also, I would be interested to find out if there was a way to separate the embodiment from the language. I have a lot of questions about this. Thank you. This is an image of my task list as required, and that's it.